So quite often in guitar books and things where you start to get into different strumming patterns, usually they'll have something, a symbol that indicates where we want to do a downstroke and where to do an upstroke. Incidentally, it's pretty silly the way we notate downstrokes and upstrokes strumming, because a lot of the time, ones I've seen, we have an arrow pointing up to indicate a downstroke. It's stupid, but anyway. And a lot of the time they'll give you exercises that might look something like this, where we've got to go maybe down, 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 up, down, 2, 3, and 4, and that kind of thing. But we don't want to be relying on some predetermined pattern that dictates exactly what we have to do with that picking hand. So we don't want to be overthinking this. We just want to let the music sort of tell us where we should be strumming, when we should be doing upstrokes, etc. So to get into that, rather than me giving you a bunch of these boring exercises, let's see some footage of me with my head chopped off.
Alright, so a bit of a change of scenery today. Now this is another area that some people seem to really pick it up straight away and just have a good sense of rhythm and be able to lay down a solid groove, and other people really need to work at it. So here's just a few ideas that you can sort of keep in the back of your mind to try to add a bit more variety to your strumming patterns and, make them sound more musical. You'll say, well, why are we sitting in a drum kit? So when we're looking for more rhythmic strumming patterns, what we want to do here, and I can't believe I'm about to say this because this is such terrible advice in any other area, but what we want to do is think like a drummer. We're not here to learn drums, we're here to learn guitar, of course. We're going to imitate some of the simple basic drum kits that people would start out on if they were learning drums. And usually if you sit down with having no experience on a drum kit, then probably the first beat you would learn to play would be something like, okay, so we've got to set our tempo first. 1, 2, 3, 4, bass, snare, bass, snare. Alright, now that's the simplest beat we've got. Now what we might do in between that is also hit the hi-hat. We might hit it in time with those. Bass, snare, bass, snare. Now that's so far we're really just doing what a lot of people would do when they first start strumming a chord progression. Just strumming 1, 2, 3, 4. Now the next drum beat that people might learn to keep things a bit more interesting, where we are starting to have to get things working independently, would be bass, snare, bass, snare. Okay, bass, snare, bass. Okay, so straight away there's something that we can play around with a chord progression. So again, we've only learnt a few chords so far, so I'm just going to make use of some of those, and maybe if I just strum on an E minor. So we started with bass, snare, bass, snare. So we can be thinking about where those snare hits occur on beats 2 and 4, and that's where we can think about using accents for our strumming, all right? We might just strum a little bit harder, make sure we do connect with all the strings to get our accent. So it could be something like and now an accent can also occur on an upstroke of the pick, and we're going to want to put that to use with some more complex patterns. So let's look at what a slightly more interesting drum beat might be. Bass, snare, bass, bass, snare, bass, snare, bass, bass, snare. Okay, that's bass, snare, bass, bass, snare. Okay, now, they're our main hits, but because we've got hi-hat hits on doing eighth notes as well, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, gives us a lot more variety of times that we might want to strum. Again, we're sort of imitating that with our strumming patterns. So, I'm just sticking to the E minor chord, which we know so well. Bass, snare, bass, bass, snare. What about? You can see how straight away there's a lot of ways I can alternate where I strum on the upstrokes or the downstrokes, and so it's good to practice doing all of those so that we can get into more complicated rhythms. And the other idea we can use this for is knowing that we've got sort of bass strings and treble strings, we can sort of use where the kick drum would occur, that the bass drum might be where we might aim for the lower strings. It doesn't have to necessarily be just the one string, although we could do that. We can just sort of aim for roughly that half of the guitar, and then the other half when we want those accents to occur. So beyond that, at some point most drummers get past those straight bass, snare beats, and then they get into some variation of that kind of rhythm. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of different ways we could mix that up, particularly once we bring the hi-hat in as well. We could try to imitate that as close as we can, knowing that we've got our bass strings that could imitate the kick drums, so it could be something like... And we could also simplify that pattern slightly for the guitar. So we're getting rid of some of the notes that were occurring in the drum pattern, and you know, it would probably work quite well if we were playing along with a drummer who was playing a similar beat to what I was just playing. It might be something like... So all we're really looking for here is alternatives to just playing either a straight 1, 2, 3, 4, or a straight 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and we're just trying to find different ways we can add more variety and, you know, make a piece of music more interesting. But it might be something like bass, snare, bass, bass, snare. Okay, we've done that. Then we go bass, 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 bass. Okay, so that might be something like... So the main point of all this really is that the golden rule for most 4/4 music is that you're going to hear a snare hit or an accent of some sort occurring on beats 2 and 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, particularly when we're playing strumming patterns that don't have any accompaniment or anything, really accenting that 2 and 4 by, you know, strumming harder and hitting a lot of the strings on our strum through. That's the most likely place we're going to put our main accents. But we can vary the dynamics of every strum that we make to not just accent beats 2 and 4. We've got a lot of different ways that we can chop up the rhythm of a 4/4 beat. We just would want to stick to that main rule of the main accents occurring on beats 2 and 4, and we might want to just do it a little bit, you know, a slightly smaller accent on beats 1 and 3, and then just doing some very slight little notes on any of those notes, that the eighth notes that occur in between those beats. All right, so if I can just demonstrate that. Okay, so it might be, to start with, bass 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Okay. Play around with it anyway, there's a lot of different options. So the more pieces of music that you hear that have varying drum patterns, you can be thinking about, okay, what would I do if I was trying to imitate that drum pattern when I was strumming an acoustic guitar? And it really just, the more you do this, the more naturally it's going to come to you. I'm talking, yeah.